This is Kristen with Hooks, Books, and Wanderlust, and today I am going to show you how to crochet my Cora Throw Blanket. This pattern has so much texture and I just love the weight of it when it's laying on me, so I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. It's so fun to make and such a meditative make once you get the pattern down. So today I'm going to show you how to make the first row, the last row, and the pattern block, but I will not be making the entire blanket just because making an entire throw blanket for a video from start to finish would be a super long video. So I'm just going to show you what you need to know to be able to work the pattern. If you're following along with the written pattern, you'll notice that I give you a pattern for your gauge swatch. So I am actually going to be making that exact same swatch. So if you need help within the pattern, or maybe you've got questions along the way, hopefully this should answer all of them. And if not, definitely reach out to me. You can leave a comment below in this video, or you can always email me, which I put my email address in the description box below for you as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. I am going to be working with We Crochet or Knit Picks Brava worsted weight and a H or a 5mm hook. I've just got my Clover Amour here. And this colorway, if you're interested, is Wine, because why not? Okay, so I am going to go ahead and find my center pole here, and I'll be right back. Okay, so one quick tip for your foundation chain is to size up your crochet hook from a 5 to a 6mm hook just for the foundation chain to help avoid pulling at the bottom of your work. So I'm going to make a slip knot here and then go ahead and chain out my foundation chain. Now, if you're making the full blanket, you're going to want to chain out a total of 169 stitches. If you're making the swatch, you'll be chaining out 25. The multiple for this pattern is a multiple of 6 plus 1 for the foundation chain. So for our swatch, we have 24 plus 1 equals 25, or for the full blanket, we have 168 plus 1 equals 169. So if you want to change the width across your throw blanket, you just need to do that in multiples of 6. So either add or subtract 6 chains from your foundation chain total. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a little tip I always like to pass along is when I am chaining out, especially long chains, and I'm trying to count as I go, I chain by 5 and then I adjust my grip, because that way it's easy for me to keep count of how many I've got without actually having to count all the time. I can just look at it and see that it's 5 and adjust. So I've done it 4 times now, so that's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So now one other little tip, if you are making the full size throw blanket along with this video, is what I like to do is when I've got these especially long chains, I will take a stitch marker and mark off like increments of 50 or 100, and as I go, that way if I lose count somewhere, I don't have to go all the way back to the very beginning to start over counting. And you also might be asking, well, Kristen, you always hate doing chains, and you would be right. I hate doing chains, but in this case, because I'm working a border around my foundation, I'm not a huge fan of how a foundation single crochet would look in this instance if I was going to use that, because my first row is single crochet. I don't like how it looks with the border around it with the extra little loop in there. So I am just going to bite the bullet on this one and chain out this incredibly long number of chains for my throw blanket. Just to make sure that you are marking it along the way so that you don't lose count. Okay, so for row 1, you are going to single crochet into the first chain, or I'm sorry, into the second chain from your hook, and into every chain all the way across. So you'll notice that I am working into the back bump. It makes that finished edge so much nicer when I do go to work the border around it. If you're not sure what the back bump is, I do go over that in my Crochet 101 video for the chain stitches and stuff getting started. I'll link that below in the description box for you. But the back bump is basically you've got the little V's on bottom and there's a little bump in your chain. So it's kind of hard to see in this particular yarn color. It's much easier in my other video, but you're just looking for that back bump and you're going to work under that instead of working into the top V. And again, this just has a more professional look to it once you're finished. It's easier to work into for the border when you're trying to find your stitches. It just has a lot of benefits doing it this way. And if you get in the habit of learning it this way, then it'll just kind of take your work up to the next level without a whole lot of effort. So I'm going to finish doing these and I will meet you back at the end of the row. Okay, so I have finished working my first row of single crochet, and it's a good idea here, especially if you've got that long chain again, to go ahead and go back and just count your stitches and make sure that you have the correct number. So after row 1, if you're working the swatch, you should have 24, and if you are working the full throw, you should have 168 stitches, okay? So go ahead and pause if you need to go and count. So let's move on to row 2 and another simple row here. We're just going to half double crochet. So you're going to chain 1 and turn, and half double crochet into the stitch at the base of that turning chain and into every stitch all the way across. So I'm going to finish my row here, and go ahead and pause it and finish yours, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Okay, we are back and we have finished row 2. So again, you should have an unchanged number of stitches, 24 for the swatch and 168 for the full throw. So now we're ready to move on to row 3, and I am going to chain 2 and turn. And for this row, we are going to be working double crochets into the third loop of our half double crochet. So we are going to just work a regular double crochet as normal, yarn over, insert your hook underneath that third loop right there that's now facing you from working those half doubles, and pull up a loop, and then just double crochet as normal. And you'll start that with that very first stitch at the base of your turning chain. You're going to do that in every single stitch all the way across to the end. And what you'll notice is that this is going to create an official right and wrong side of your fabric. As you work these stitches, it's going to push the regular 2 loops of your half double crochet to the front of your work, which will be the right side. And so now right now, as you work this row rather, and every other odd numbered row, this will be the wrong side facing you. So even numbered rows will have the right side facing you, odd numbered rows will have the wrong side facing you. So go ahead and finish this row again, just working regular double crochets into the third loop of those half doubles from the previous row, all the way across, and I'll meet you at the end. And that is the end of row 3. So now if you would like to go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work, you're going to notice this textured ridge here from working into that third loop. And this is what I was talking about before. That's going to make this textured side is going to be the right side. So now I'm ready to start row 4, and the right side of my work is facing me. And I will say that if you don't always stop to count your stitches in each row, I would definitely recommend it at the end of any row you're working into a third loop like this, only because sometimes it's easy to miss either the beginning stitch or the last stitch, just to make sure that you don't accidentally, miss a stitch. So you've chain 1 and turn, and the next row, row 4, is actually just a simple row of single crochet. So starting with that very first stitch at the base of your turning chain, you're just going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So go ahead and pause the video to complete that row, and I will meet you back here at the end. Okay, so we have finished row 4 and we're ready to begin row 5. And to start that, we're going to chain 2 and turn our work, and you'll notice now that the wrong side of our work is facing us. And the first thing I want to mention about this row is that yes, it's very fiddly. So it's going to make you work for it, but I promise that it is worth it. There are some special stitches involved in this row, the back post double crochet and the 9 loop puff stitch. I have tutorials available for those that are more in depth, and I will link those for you below. But I'm just going to kind of go over them rather quickly in this video. But I'm with you on this. I know that it's fiddly, and I promise that it's worth it. Okay, so let's do it together. We'll go nice and slow, and we're going to get you through it. Okay. So we've started with the chain 2, and if you're following with the written pattern, it says double crochet 2. That means starting with the stitch at the base of your turning chain, you're going to double crochet into the first 2 stitches. Okay. Now for the next 2 stitches, instead of working into the single crochets from the previous row, we are actually going to be working around the post stitches of the stitches below those. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be working under these post stitches, or around those post stitches. So you're going to yarn over, and this is a back post double crochet, so we're going to insert our hook from the back side of the fabric around the post, and we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. Try and keep that a little on the loose side, and just double crochet as normal for a back post double crochet. Let's do that one more time on the next stitch. So from the back of our fabric, pull up a loop, keep it loose, and double crochet. So now, instead of working into those 2 single crochets, we worked around the posts below them. Our next stitch is going to get placed into this next single crochet. So we've skipped 2 of the single crochets, and we're going to go into the 3rd with just a standard double crochet. Okay. All right. With me so far? All right. So we are going to work a 9 loop puff. Now, if you follow along with my more in-depth tutorial that I'm linking below for you, you'll notice that that is a 7 loop puff. The only difference is the number of times you yarn over and pull up a loop. In the 7 loops, you do it 3 times, and in the 9 loop, you do it 4 times. So the method is the exact same. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the next single crochet, and pull up a loop. Pull it up to row height. Yarn over, insert, and pull up a loop again. You've added 2 more loops to your hook. You should have 5 on there now. So here's our 3rd time. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now you'll have 7. Yarn over and pull up a loop again. And now you'll have 9. Yarn over and pull through all 9 of those loops and chain 1 to close it. Now I'm going to skip this next single crochet and double crochet into the stitch after. Okay. All right. So now we have the next 2 stitches are going to be those back post stitches again. So I'm going to count. Here's my trick for doing this. I find my last 2 post stitches, and then I skip 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that next post is the one I'm working around. Insert from the back of your fabric and pull up a loop. Keep it loose, double crochet. And you'll do the same thing for the next. Keep it loose, double crochet. All right, so that is your stitch pattern that you're going to repeat across this row. So I'm just going to keep going and show you on my swatch here. That way, if you need to see it again, it's here. So we just did 2 back post doubles. Our next stitch is going to skip these 2 single crochets that we did the post stitches in front of, and then we're going to do a double crochet into the next single. Now we have our 9 loop puff into the next stitch. Again, pulling that puff stitch, that loop up to the top of your row. There's 2, 3, and 4 loops pulled up, which means I have a total now of 9 on my hook. Yarn over, pull through all the loops, chain 1 to close. Skip the next stitch and double crochet into the following stitch. And we are going to back post again. Again, I'm going to count from my last post stitches here. You can see it. You can always look for those ridges. Find your post stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip 4 and back post double crochet around the next. Keep it loose and double crochet. Do the same for the next stitch. And then skip those 2 that you just posted in front of and double crochet into the next single crochet. 9 loop puff, 2, 3, and 4. Now I have 9 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through all of them, chain 1 to close, skip 1, double crochet into the next. Now, as we've reached the end of our row, we're going to finish that little stitch repeat with the 2 back post stitches. Okay, so again, you're going to look for your, this is why it's always good to count, it's because I almost went around the wrong one. Okay, so I found my post stitches, skip 4, and then you're going to go around the next 2. All right, and then you are left with 2 stitches. You're just going to double crochet into those last 2 stitches. Chain 2 and turn. Okay, so I'm going to let you pause the video if you would like to go ahead and finish your row if you're working the full size throw with this swatch. Okay. We are ready to begin row 6 now. And just, let's take a second before I start that. And I just want to kind of show you what you're looking at now. So if you remember, we had a multiple of 6 that we started with. So we had a beginning chain, or we started with 24 stitches, which is it's a multiple of 6 because it's 4 multiples. But you'll notice I only have 3 of the puffs. And the reason is because I have split that last multiple of 6 between the first 4 stitches, the first 2 double crochets, and the first 2 back post double crochets, and those last 2. So your pattern repeat, or your stitch repeat across this row, is the double crochet, puff, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and then back post 2. And you just repeat that all the way across. You're left with 2 stitches, double crochet into those last 2. So you're always going to have 1 fewer puff stitch in your row than you have your multiple for your 6. Okay? I hope that makes sense. So in my case of 24, my multiple of 6, I have 4 of them, but I only have 3 puffs. So the same rule applies regardless of how many you start out with. Just in case you've changed your width, it's a quick way to help you try and count the row. Just little crochet quirks, crochet math if you're interested. If not, let's keep going. Okay, so for row 6, it's a much easier row. it's just front post double crochet and double crochet. And the difference here is that now I've got the right side of my fabric facing me. So that's why I'm doing front post stitches, is so that I can keep all that texture on one side of my fabric. So again, I'm only going to kind of go over it very briefly here. I have a much more in-depth tutorial that I will link for the front post double crochet for you below. It does use a different yarn so that you can see it a little bit better. But I think that you'll get the hang of it. If you can do a back post, you can do a front post much more easily. I think it's the easier of the two. So I am going to start with 2 double crochets into the double crochets below. Easy peasy. Okay. Now for the next 2 stitches, I'm going to front post double crochet. All right. So just yarn over like normal. And this time, because it's a front post, you're inserting your hook around the post from the front side of your fabric. Okay. So you're going to push that stitch to the front, yarn over and pull up a loop, double crochet. You still want to keep it kind of loose. Those post stitches will try and kind of pull your work. So, you know, pull those loops up a little higher than maybe normally feels normal and go from there. Now for the next set of stitches, you're going to double crochet 4 stitches. Okay, so you're going to go into the first double crochet here, the top of your puff, your chain 1, your next double crochet. That's your 4 double crochets in this row, in this next section here. So double crochet 1 into the top of the puff for 2, into the chain stitch, and into the last double crochet before your post stitches. So now you have 4 double crochets and you're ready to front post double. All right, so that sequence of 4 double crochets and 2 front post stitches is what you will repeat all the way across the row until you have 2 stitches left. So let's keep going, okay? And you can pause if you've got it and go ahead and finish your row, or just keep watching. Make sure you're grabbing both the top of the puff and the chain stitch, and then both of those double crochets flanking that. And then front post, keep it loose. Okay. Pull out some more yarn here. All right, and the top of the puff. And the chain stitch. And the double crochet. Front post 2. And now you're left with the last 2 stitches of your row. Go ahead and double crochet into each of those. And that is it for that row. So now you can kind of start to see how the pattern is taking shape, and you're really getting some of that delicious texture. We are going to repeat rows 5 and 6 2 more times. Okay, so you will have 3 rows of puff stitches here. All right, so chain 2 and turn, and just like before, double crochet 2, back post. Now the back posts will be a little easier since you've got established post stitches. It's definitely a little bit more fiddly in row 5, but it'll be a little easier in row 7 for you. So just come behind that stitch and pull up your loop and double crochet. Just remember to keep it loose because you don't want to pull your fabric. Double crochet and now a 9 loop puff. So again, we are yarning over and pulling up a loop 4 different times for a total of 9 loops on our hook. Chain 1 to close, skip 1, double crochet into the next. Back post 2, keep it loose. And just keep going just like you did in row 5, and just continue across until you've got the 2 stitches remaining, and then you can just double crochet into those. We are literally just repeating row 5. The only difference is we are repeating it on an established row as opposed to just a row of double crochet. Was that 4 times? I can't remember. Let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's good. All right. And if you want your puff stitches less puffy, you can do fewer yarn overs. If you want it more puffy, you can do more. Just keep in mind that will change your yardage that is required. Okay. So I've chained 1, skip 1, double crochet next, and then back post 2 stitches. Double crochet next, 9 loop puff next, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yarn over, pull through all of those loops, chain 1 to close. Skip 1, double crochet next. Pull more yarn. And back post the next 2 stitches. Remember to keep that loose. Okay, and now I am left with 2 stitches, just double crochet. Chain 2 and turn. Now this is definitely something that could really stand a bit of blocking when you're done. Just so you know, it'll help kind of stretch out those post stitches and kind of just make everything nice and neat. But if I'm being honest, I didn't do mine. I did not block mine, and it's going to be fine. So it's up to you. I just smoothed it out with my hands when I was done, and it turned out just fine. So it's all good. Okay, so I am going to repeat row 6 here. So this is just the double crochet, front post double crochet row. All right, so we're going to start with 2 double crochets. And now we're going to front post the next 2. So much easier to locate the post stitches on an established row, isn't it? So just make sure that when you're doing this, you're grabbing all of those 4 stitches. You've got the double crochet, the puff stitch, the chain 1, the next double crochet, for a total of 4 double crochets in that little section. And then you'll front post, double crochet 2, and then you'll just continue repeating that same sequence of 4 and then 4 double crochets, front post 2, all the way across until you're left with 2 stitches. Oops. There we go. So as you finish your row, feel free to pause here and you can pick it back up here when I get to the end of the row as well. Okay, our last 2 post stitches of that row, and then we have 2 stitches left. We're just going to double crochet. All right. So now you can really see how that is starting to take some shape. Now I am going to just repeat these 2 rows again one more time for a total of, we'll be at 10 rows at that point, okay? So you'll have another puff stitch row with the back post and another front post and double crochet row. And then meet me back here once you've done that, and we can continue on for row 11, okay? Okay, we are back. You should be done with your final repeat of rows 5 and 6, and now should have a total of 10 rows. And our next row for row 11 is just going to be a basic row of single crochet. So go ahead and chain 1 and turn your work. So single crochet into the stitch at the base of your turning chain and in each stitch across. You go ahead and finish your row, and I will meet you back here when you're done. Okay, you'll notice now, just to point out, the wrong side of your fabric definitely looks very different from the right side. So that should help you kind of remember which side is facing you at least. So for our next row, we are going to chain 1 and turn. And for row 12, we are going to use what's called a yarn over slip stitch. And it's basically exactly what it sounds like. I do have, again, once again, I have a full tutorial for the yarn over slip stitch that I will link below for you as well. But it's pretty simple. I think you can get it from just watching me here as well. So we're going to start with a chain 1 and yarn over, and then you're going to insert your hook into that first stitch at the base of your turning chain and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to take that last loop that you just pulled up and you're going to pull it through the other 2 on your hook. Let's do it again. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the other 2. It's really pretty simple, and it's going to have the same effect as a half double crochet when it's worked in the 3rd loop. And you're probably asking, well, why didn't you just do a half double crochet? And the reason is because spatially it works better to use this. It centers the rows of puff stitches a little bit more neatly than using the half double. I tried, I didn't like it, so here we are with the yarn over slip stitch. So just keep doing that all the way across the row, and I will meet you at the end, okay? Okay, so we have finished row 12 with the yarn over slip stitch, and for our row 13 we are going to just do a row of single crochet, but we're going to do it in the 3rd loop of our yarn over slip stitch. So chain 1 and turn. Now just like the half double crochet, you'll notice that we have this raised 3rd loop back here, and that's what we're going to be working under, okay? So you've got your chain 1, and in that first stitch, go ahead and slide your hook underneath that 3rd loop and pull up a loop, and then single crochet, just like normal. Just keep doing that all the way across. And that's going to, again, create that same kind of ridged texture on the opposite side. So I will meet you back here at the end of the row. Okay, so I have finished my row 12. I'm sorry, my row 13 of single crochets in the 3rd loop of the yarn over slip stitch. And you'll notice here that because you worked into that third loop, it's kind of made these loops look kind of vertical, which I think is kind of neat. At least you know you did it right. Okay, so one other thing I want to mention here is, again, just like with the half double crochet in the third loop, when you were working into that, I would go ahead, and it's a great point to stop and count your stitches just to make sure you didn't accidentally miss one at the beginning or the end of this row. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and turn it, chain one and turn. And if you are working on the full throw, rows 2 through 13 here are your pattern repeat. So if you're working the full throw, you would just go back to the half double crochet row next. Okay, so for the next row you would work half double crochet, and then you would work double crochet in the third loop, just like we did down here. You're literally just going to repeat all of those same things. This is your pattern repeat, or the block of rows that you're going to repeat over and over again to make your blanket. So if you are just done with your blanket, I'm not going to continue working the repeats here. So I'm going to go ahead and work my final row, which would, if you're working the full throw, would be row number 146, which is just a row of single crochet all the way across. And that way I can kind of show you how to get into the border. Okay, so I've chained one, and I am just going to single crochet all the way across. And what this will give us is the first row, the last row, and one of the pattern repeats in between. So I'm going to finish this, and I'll meet you back here in time for the border. So close, friends, so close. All right, so I have finished my last row as if I was making the entire throw. I have finished row number 146, which is, again, just a very simple row of single crochet. Now from this point on, I am going to begin working the border. Now, when I say turn, when we were working the body, that meant flipping it. But in this case, now that we're going to be working in the round, when I say turn, I mean rotate, okay? So at the end of row 146, or your final row of the pattern, then you are going to chain one, turn or rotate 90 degrees clockwise, and you're going to begin by working along the left side edge of your blanket. Now, my preference for borders is always to work my first round as single crochet. It helps it kind of just really neaten everything up. I think it helps make it look more professional. And if you have chosen to do a different color for your border, I do recommend that you do the single crochet round in the same color as the body, because again, it just kind of helps smooth out all those edges. Okay, so when I say to work single crochet evenly around, what I mean is we are going to work a single crochet. This is my rule of thumb. I'll work a single crochet into the side of each row that starts with a single crochet. I work 2 single crochets into each row that starts with a double crochet. I work 1 single crochet into a row that starts with half double crochet, and I work no single crochets into the rows of the yarn over slip stitch. So I'm going to show it to you, so don't worry. I know that was a lot. Here we go. So I'm going to start, because my last row was a row of single crochet, I am going to start by working my first single crochet into the side of that row. And now I have come upon the row of single crochet beneath that. So I'll just stick another one in there. The slip stitch row doesn't really have any space to work into, so I just skip it. And now I've got another row of single crochet. So I'm just going to do 1 single crochet into the side of that. Okay, so for our next row we have the double crochet. We, regardless of whether it's a puff or a double crochet row, we start with double crochets. I'm going to be working 2 single crochets into each of these. Now I'm going to try and get this closer so you can kind of see. When you're making your stitch, you kind of have 2 spaces in a double crochet, and I'm just going to go into this one gap here, and then I'm going to go into like around the post. So now I've got 2 into that one. Similarly into the side of, now this will be the chain 3, so I'm just going to work around the chain 3, but into the same gaps. So I'm just working into the top of the stitch here, and then around the body, and into the top of the chain 3 here, or the top of the stitch, and then around the chain 3. Just going to keep doing that for each of my double crochet start rows. Now I have, let's see, I'm going to have a single crochet row here, so I'm just going to do 1, and then I've got a double, so I'm going to do 2, and I don't think I did that right. I skipped it. It's right here. That's my single crochet. All right, so here's my first of 2 for the double crochet. All right, now I've met a half double crochet row, so I'm just going to do 1 into that one, and then I've got my final, my very first row, which was single crochet, and I'm just going to do 1 into the side of that. So now I've reached the corner, and to turn the corner and rotate my work, I'm going to chain 1, rotate it 90 degrees, and now this is where working into that back bump comes in handy, because now you have the nice V on the bottom of your stitches here. So just work into the very first chain and into each chain all the way across. Just a 1 for 1 here, okay? Might be a little tight. One thing I didn't do in the video here that I should have, and it's something that I do recommend in the pattern, is going up 1 millimeter for my foundation chain. It would have really helped with some of the pulling that I've been experiencing on this, as well as getting my hook into these stitches when I'm ready to work my border. I'm just going to keep going here all the way across. You can pause your video, finish your side here. If you're following in the written pattern, I'm kind of like, I've broken this round up into 4 sides. So round 1, side 1, round 1, side 2. So this is finishing up round 1, side 2 here along the foundation chain. And so now as I come to the last chain, I am just going to chain 1, rotate my work, and I'm ready to begin side 3. So now you can kind of see where that's evened up a lot. And again, a good blocking will help with this too, if you're really worried about it. Pull out some more yarn here. Now I've got my tail. I am going to weave over some of that. My rule is I leave like a good, I don't know, 8-inch tail, and I like to weave over, like work over it at least 1/3 of the way. So I will work until I've got this much of it covered, and then I'll drop it. And what I'm going to do is I'll weave it back in the other direction and then back one more time so that I've weaved it like my grandma says when you're crossing the road. She says, look left, right, and left again. So it's kind of the same thing when you're weaving in your ends, especially if it's something that's going to be washed and used a lot. You want to make sure that those ends are very securely woven. Okay, enough about my diatribe about weaving in your ends. Promise. Okay, so now I have chained one. I'm ready to turn my corner. I've got my single crochet row here, so I'm just going to work one for it. It's the same concept of what we did on the other side. You're just going to work very evenly across your rows in the same fashion. So we did one single crochet for the single crochet row. We're going to do one for the half double crochet row. Now it's looking a little bit differently when we're working our double crochet rows up the other side. So I'm just going to kind of come around the post and then in the stitch. Whatever you got to do there. So now I've got my single crochet row. So one for that one. Just remember the start of of each pattern repeat is a little bit different because you got that single crochet row thrown in there. And then around the post and in the top of the stitch, around the chain 3 and into the top of the stitch, around the post. Oops, I went too far with my weave in. That's okay. I'm going to drop that now. Okay, so around the post and into the top of the stitch, around the chain 3 and into the top, into the top of the stitch and into the post, top of the stitch, into the chain 3, top of the stitch. Now this is a single crochet, so one single crochet. Then we had our slip stitch, so we're going to skip that one. The next row is a single crochet, so we're going to single crochet around it. And then we had one more row of single crochet. Just kind of stick it where you can, try and make it nice and even, that's all. So now I am going to chain one and turn, rotate my work 90 degrees again. And as you see, when I spread that out, it looks much more even. The pulling here is because, again, I used the wrong hook size. So I hope you caught that in my post edit when I put that in the notes on the video there. So, okay, so I've chained one and I've turned, and now I'm just going to be working into a 1 for 1 again into those same top stitches from row 146. So if you want to go ahead, pause the video, and I'll meet you back at the end of the row. Okay, so I have finished the last side and my last stitch of round 1 on our border. I have not joined yet because I wanted to kind of show you guys a little something here just to remind you that because we've been chaining 1 at each corner, we didn't chain 1 for the corner at the start of the row. That was just to get the height at the start of our round, rather. That was just to get the height of our single crochet to start the first stitch on this left side edge. So after our final stitch of the last side, we are going to chain 1 and then slip stitch to the top of that very first single crochet to join. Okay, so now we'll rotate our work and we're ready to begin working on round 2. So again, we're going to work along our left side edge first, but you've already done the hard work of figuring out how to work evenly around your the sides of your rows. So from here on out, it's just working into stitches, super easy. Round 2, I keep getting them confused, I'm sorry. Round 2 is just going to be basic half double crochet. And when you reach each corner, you're going to half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet into the corner and then continue on. Now, if you worked the stitches the same way as the pattern is written and as I specified, evenly along the sides here for the full throw, then you should have a total of 218 half double crochets by the time you reach that corner, that first corner, okay? So let's go ahead, and you're just going to half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet into that very first stitch. Oh, that was a single crochet, Kristen. Whoopsies. So half double crochet into the first stitch and into each stitch all the way around. Go all the way across to your corner here. So I'm going to do this side, and I'm going to meet you back at the corner because I'm going to show you how to work that corner, okay? Be right back. Okay, so I have reached the 218th half double crochet, and I am ready to turn my corner. So to do that, I'm going to find the chain 1 from round 1, and it's going to be a little hidden on this corner, so you're going to have to dig for it a little bit. Just kind of look at your stitches, find the last stitch, find the next single crochet, and then the one in between is your chain stitch, okay? So half double crochet into that chain 1 space, if you can get your hook in there. And then you're going to chain 1 again, and into the same space, half double crochet again. That's going to turn the corner, and you're ready to start your half double crochets along the bottom edge of your blanket. So you just half double all the way across, get to your corner, and I'll meet you back there so I can show it to you one more time, okay? Okay, so I am reaching the corner here. I've got one last half double crochet to work for this side here, as I can tell by the little V here. So I'm going to work that last half double. And then here's my next single from the previous round, and that right there is my chain stitch. So I am going to insert my hook underneath it, if I can get it in there. Helps to keep those looser on the front end. Let's see, I didn't get all the way underneath it. There we go. So half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet into that same chain 1 space to turn the corner. And you are going to continue doing that for the last 2 sides, and I will meet you back at the end of the round to show you where to join, okay? So just keep half double crocheting. Don't miss this little guy right here. And keep half double crocheting all the way across and around, working those corners like I just showed you. I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I have reached the last stitch of my round 2 here of the border, and I've gotten to the corner, and I just wanted to show you guys one last time. The closing corner is a little bit different because when we start, well, it's not really different. I just want to make sure you guys didn't miss it, really. So you're going to do the corner the same way as you did previously. So you're just going to work under that chain 1. You're going to work your half double, chain 1, half double. And then you're going to slip stitch to the first half double of the row, round, Kristen. To close it, and there you go. So now you're ready to start your next round of your border, and what you're going to notice is that you're now going to be starting 1 half double crochet in from where the first of this side is because of that corner, okay? So our hook is positioned to work into this half double crochet, but there's actually 1 on the other side. So that's going to be important when we finish this next round because we want to make sure we don't miss it. Okay? So to begin this next round, it's just going to be half double crochet in the 3rd loop. So you're going to chain 1, yarn over, and if you're not familiar with working the 3rd loop, I find it easier to kind of go in under the top V from the back and then just kind of push it out, and that just finds it automatically. So I'm going to show you again here, just my little trick. So go under the top V of your stitch from behind your fabric and just push down and out towards the back, and it finds that third loop every time. And once you've established your row or a few stitches in your round, Kristen, it's a round, then you will be able to find that a little more easily as you continue on. And when you reach your corners, it's going to be the same thing. You're just going to half double, chain one, half double. No third loop to work into because you're working into a chain space at the corners. So just keep with those half double, chain one, half doubles at your corners and you'll be just fine. So keep doing this. I'm going to show you here towards the end with the corner just to illustrate my point. Get there quickly, and you can see how this is creating a nice little ridge here on the front side of our blanket. It's going to really frame in the rest of the texture really nicely, I think. So just keep finding those third loops. And as you get to the corner, it can be a little tricky to find that last one. So just be careful and look for it. So again, at the corner. Okay, so here was, no, I just worked into the chain. See, I just messed it up. All right, so here's my final half double. Here's my chain space, and I'm just gonna work a half double, chain one, half double into it. All right, and then you'll turn your corner that way, and then again find that third loop. And as you establish that side, it'll be a little bit easier to find. There we are. So just keep doing that all the way around. I will join you at the end of the last side here to show you where to join and make sure you guys don't miss that last stitch, okay? All right, friends, I have reached the final corner of round 3 here of my border. And I just wanted to show you how to finish this one up because I want to make sure you don't miss any stitches. Okay, so I have gotten the last one on the side. I'm reaching my chain one space here. And I am going to do my half double, chain one, half double. But you don't want to forget the first stitch of this side from the previous round, which is this half double right here. So you are going to have to try and find that third loop, which is a little tricky because of the corner here. Just don't forget it. That's all I'm saying. And then you can slip stitch to the top of the first half double to close your round. So I'm going to stop there for just a second. And you can see that now you've got this really pretty ridge that's framing your blanket. I didn't leave myself enough yarn to do this, but I was just thinking that it would look really pretty if you had, instead of row round 3 being a half double crochet row in the third loop, if it was single and then you did another round of half double with one final round of single after it, so you'd have that double ridge. I think that would look really pretty. I just didn't leave myself enough yarn this time to do that. So maybe on the next one, just a thought. Anyhow, so we have now reached the final round of our border. And this round is just going to be a basic single crochet round. So now we are starting 2 stitches in on this side. And I am going to chain 1 and single crochet into each stitch all the way across this side, and just the same as I have been at every corner, I am going to single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet in each corner to turn them. Okay, so go ahead and finish this round. and I will meet you back when we are ready to tie off, okay? All right, so I have reached the final corner of the final round of our border here, round 4, and I am just going to go ahead and show you this corner one last time. So I've already worked into the first half double crochet of that previous round. I'm just going to go into the chain space now, whoops, for my single crochet, chain 1, single crochet to turn the corner. Don't forget the half double to work into there and there. And slip stitch to close. And you can tie off, but isn't that so nice? So now at this point you should have your blanket finished. You can tie off, you can weave in those ends just to kind of show you what I was talking about. Remember how I worked only over about a third of it? Well, then I'll take my needle and I'll weave it back this way, and then I'll go back one last time so that I have all of that is basically underneath stitches. Super secure. Do the same thing, cut a nice 8 or 9 inch tail and be able to do the same thing with that side. And that's it for the Cora blanket. I hope that you guys really enjoyed this pattern. I know that it could be a little fiddly, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's definitely a meditative make, something you can totally Netflix and chill to. Am I right? Those are the best patterns in my opinion. So anyhow, if you have any questions, comments, or problems, leave those below for me and I will get back to you as soon as I can, or you can always email those questions to me as well, which I will put in the description box along with all of those previously mentioned stitch tutorials, as well as the full written pattern that you can find on my blog. So that's it for today. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I will catch you on the next video.